All right, recording is on. Welcome to this week's Start Smart Real Estate Reimagined. My name is Leigh Martinuzzi and I'll be looking after you today. Today, I wanted to talk about 10 ways to generate more leads in your real estate business. Now, if you've been doing real estate for the length I have, you're probably well familiar with a lot of these. If you haven't, then hopefully some of them you might want to take on board and run with because I believe they're all very good. And it doesn't mean you have to do them all, but maybe a combination of them all. And what I'll touch on at the end as well, I guess some bonus content just about a couple of things that I think are important around all these things. So we'll reach that point and look, it'll probably go for about 15 minutes. And at the end, I'll open it up for a bit of Q&A with everyone that might have questions as well. So my background, been in real estate for 8 years, just to put some context to it. And I started off working with a bunch of different agencies. And it wasn't until 4 or 5 years ago, I set up my own business and went independent, but with a network of agencies that's global. And it's the best decision I ever made. And the reason why I like that is because it just fit with my lifestyle, sort of balance and where I wanted to be. I get to do my own thing, but I get to still be a part of a network and a business. That gives me all the leverages that I think, bigger businesses do, but I still get to have that flexibility and autonomy to run a business how I do things. So 8 years in the business, I've given everything a go. Some things I've kept and some things I've dropped. And that's just really personal preference. And I think when I'm mentioning through these 10 ways to generate more leads today, it's just something to keep in mind. You have to really work with your strengths and your passions, because if it's something that you don't really enjoy or not really good at, it's unlikely you're going to get the results from it, but it's also unlikely you're going to keep doing it. Hope that makes sense. So the first one I want to touch on, which is a bit of a no-brainer, is cold calling and follow-ups. Sounds like a bit of a no-brainer, right? But there are so many opportunities to talk to people every day on the phone. And I think when you say, broke my teeth in this space when I first started, and the agency put me on the phones and said, here, make some calls. And that's what I had to do for 12 hours a day. So it got me very confident on the phones. And I think that's the hardest thing to start when you're told to, make calls and talk to people. In real estate, people feel it's salesy because that's what we are. We're salespeople, right? But what I'd like to remind people is that we're actually a service provider. We're here to help people. And so the biggest thing that helped me get over my hesitation is that, you know what, I am a service business and I offer value through providing a service, whether that's information on the phones or assisting someone with a market valuation. That's the service. So that helps me just say, you know what, I'm not annoying people. I'm actually just offering a service. And if they're into it or not into it, then so be it. And you'll quickly learn whether they are or not. When I first started out, it was more about the sales and transactions, and it was a very direct approach sort of call. But now I do it a little bit differently. And I'm not going to go through scripts and dialogues today or my process, but what I want to say is that be yourself on the phone like you're talking to a friend. Ring up, hey, it's Lee from ABC Real Estate. I'm just ringing about a new house that's listed down the street from you. I appreciate you're not buying or selling at the moment, or most likely not. But just wondering, is there anything we can help you with at the moment? I thought this would be a good opportunity to connect and see if we can assist you with anything now or down the track later this year. Really simple questioning. It's non-confrontational. And I think you'll find that people respond to it. And I think, number one, if it's a woman, it'll probably be, oh, I'm in a meeting, I can't talk right now. That's what I commonly hear from the ladies out there. From the men, they're a bit more direct and they say, look, I'm not selling or whatever, go away. Or I'm not selling, and maybe they're a bit more polite about it. That's sort of the response you get. But other times you might get someone saying, oh, really? Okay. And they might start asking some questions about whatever you're calling about the listing down the road. And through that, you can then start engaging with them and say, okay, so what is it that you're looking to do? Are you looking to buy, or are you just curious about values? And through questioning and listening, you might find out that actually they have plans in the next 2 years to sell. And that way you can grab their information and put them in your pipeline of future sellers. The one thing I love about calling is that I can do it from the office on any particular day, whether it's hot, raining, or whatever. and I can do a lot of them in a very short succession. So that's number one for me, and that's probably the one of my strengths, and that's where I still focus my energy. Number two is door knocking. And again, much like the phone calls that you make, door knocking should be the same thing. It's a service approach to offering people your services. And I've never been that great at this method, and it's because I started doing it when I first started in this area up here on the Sunshine Coast. And I quickly found once I started to get listings, it was just too time consuming to fit door knocking in. So I just kept making the cold calls. Some people are better off at door knocking because they're better face to face. They seem to engage better. Maybe they're better looking. I don't know what it is, but they just seem to have that door knocking down pat a little bit better. I think if you're starting out as an agent and you've got the time, a combination of both, if you're trying to dominate a particular marketplace, is a really good strategy to get your name known out in the community, because people will, number one, know your voice on the phone, but number two, they'll start seeing your face walking around the streets. And when I was doing that, I was not only door knocking, but I was delivering flyers, which is my number 3 point. And people started to see me. And one listing I got, I remember, I saw him out there. He was fixing his car in the front of his driveway, and he said, "Oh, can you actually come around and do us appraisal? We're thinking of selling." And then when I was talking to him, listing his property, he goes, "Mate, I just had to use you because I saw you everywhere walking around, and work ethic shows. So if people see hard work, it's likely they want to use you because they know you'll probably work hard for selling their property as well." So number 2 is door knocking. Number 3, flyer and letterbox drops. And I think this is the big one. It's still relevant today. And I know there's a lot of no junk mail out there, and there's a lot of flyers that are going into the boxes, and you might think it's a waste of your printing and your time putting in there, because people reach in to get their junk mail and they put it straight in the bin, right? But you're not worried about the bunch of people. You're worried about one person that picks it up and is in real estate mode, sees your brand, and then makes a call. Or number 2, this is more important, it's just repetition. People are seeing your brand, your face every single day, and it'll show. And I find the agents that do the best generally do a lot of flyer drops and letterbox drops as well. And I'll go into a little bit about how to differentiate yourself at the end of this segment. But I think that's number 3, and up there for me as one of the top ones that I have to continually do, because I know it helps my branding in my local marketplace. Obviously, there's a limit to where you can go with all of this, right? You can't, like if you've got an area of 2,000 homes, that's fairly easy to do a flyer drop to once a month or twice a month, whatever it might be. But if you have an area of 10,000 that you're trying to cover, that could be a bit harder or a bit more costly. It depends on what your earnings are at the moment. But if you're doing very well and selling a lot of properties, there's no reason why you can't do 10,000 a month to a wider area if you've got the capacity to do that. But then also handle the volume of listings that might come in through that campaign. The other thing is letterbox drops. It's not just a generic flyer that goes out. You can also do, and this is a very common one, is just letterbox drops around a new listing. So if you've just listed a property in an area, walk around the street and drop 100 flyers and say, "Hey, just listed this property," or an invite to the open home. "Hey, we've just listed this property, got our first open home. We'd love you to come along. We've got some cheese and snacks for you. Pop on down and have a look at the place. We'd love to get your feedback." That's a really good opportunity as well. Number 4, and this is one I really enjoy, but have put on the back burner a little bit, excuse me for a sec, is community events and sponsoring. If you're time poor, sponsorship is a great way to get your brand out there. And, in your own little marketplace, it just could be a school that, is running an event that you give them $200 to brand you at that upcoming event. And I'm just about to sponsor one that's this weekend in my area, and it's for the school's PNC's Bogan Bingo night. And so I've given them $200 and they're going to put my brand up there and mention me on the night to a potential audience of 100 people. So it's a fairly cheap win to get your brand out there, and people love seeing businesses that are involved in the community. It certainly shows off. When I started out, the one thing I did, well, the two things I really did well was, number 1, movie nights. And it seems overwhelming at first when you go movie nights, event planning. How do I do all that? It's actually not that hard to find a movie hire company that does a blow up screen and they set it all up for you. It's not that hard to reach out to them and pay them. And then you don't have to pay for it all yourself. You actually get sponsors. So you ring up local business and say, hey, I'm running a movie night. Would you like to be a sponsor? You pay $200 each, whatever. We advertise your brand on the night, and therefore the event's paid for, and you're hosting it. And I think the thing I liked about it was hosting it. So I got to stand up there, introduce the movie for the night, thanks to the sponsors and all that sort of stuff. And again, people are seeing you involved in the community, and that pays off in dividends. There's a lot more different community events you can do and sponsorship styles. But certainly for me, for leads and brand awareness, that's number 4. Number 5, and again, I talked about working with your strengths and what you enjoy doing. This one hasn't been the best for me, but it's about networking. Now we are just looking at doing a few more networking events just to feel it out and see if it's comfortable for us, number 1, but to see if there is some opportunities there to network. And I think some people are really good at this space. And I've got some mentors and coaches that I work with that are fantastic at networking. For me, networking is about just going to some of the local community groups. It might be your local chamber of commerce. It might be a local community business association. There's a bunch of different networking events that operate all around Australia. There's one called BX, and they do events all around Australia that you can join. And it's usually a breakfast, with a bit of networking opportunity and maybe a guest speaker as well. A great way to give out your business card, make connections with other business owners. And that leads us to number 10 later on, but that's, new partnerships and referral networks that you can create through that networking sort of program. Number 6 for me is email marketing and SMS campaigns. When you're building a database, your data is gold, right? And they say that, anytime, I don't know what the statistic is now, but at any one time, let's say there's 3% of people selling. So if you've got 1,000 people in your database, 3% of those people might be selling, right? And they're not all going to choose you for sure. But the reason why they might choose you is because they constantly hear from you. And if you're not doing this yet, I think it's definitely something you should start doing. And that is a weekly email campaign to your database. And again, I'll talk more about this at the end, but don't make it the same as everyone else. Put your own flavor and flair into that email so that people start to build trust and a relationship with you. Because it's easy to use the CRMs that we've got and say, hey, let's do an email campaign. Here's our listings. Here's our sale properties. Boom, email it out. It's kind of very boring, And if I was getting an email like that, I probably wouldn't read into it. But if I got an email that had a bit of personality and flair behind it and introduced me to some interesting topics that I haven't thought about, I might start reading it again and again. And that's certainly what I'd suggest around email marketing campaigns. And the SMS campaigns, kind of off the back of that, you can run SMS campaigns using your CRM, many different apps that you can use these days to do it more affordably as well. And you can SMS, hey, free market appraisal if you want to, or you could offer something of value. Hey, download my latest checklist on things to consider when selling. And it's just a way to, again, engage with them, show people that you're active, and those that are in property mode might actually respond with a yes. So I did 300 yesterday, and I got 2 yeses, actually 3 yeses back from that, which shows me that they're in property mode. So I think that's really important. Number 7, social media, I think is huge. Most people spend, I think in Australia, the average time flicking through social media is anywhere between 60 minutes to 120 minutes, so 1 to 2 hours. That's a lot of time, and I don't encourage that at all, but a lot of people do. That's where they spend a lot of their time. And now with social media, you can actually pop up in their feed. So when they're looking at all their friends' posts and all the interesting stories that they're looking at, you're popping up, your face, your brand, your offer of value, again, like a checklist or something like that, pops up in front of them. Social media has been the best thing for my brand awareness than anything else, I believe. And that's because I was just prolific with it. I just created content, did a lot of posts, and then I started spending a bit of money behind it. Nothing too huge at the beginning. And then I grew that over time as I started to get more and more leads and listings on board. I was able to have the budget to do more of that. But you started off small. I started off by putting my open home for Saturday. Hey, check out this open home. It's gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. in my own style and personality, and I just spent $2.50 to boost that over the next 2 days so that anyone that was in my area would see that there's an open home. Obviously, it didn't attract more people to the open home necessarily, but it just showed people that I'm active and selling property. And I think you should do that well. And you can do that with your reviews, testimonials, new listings, sold properties, anything that you have of value to offer, like a new blog that you might have written or a checklist that you might have available for people to download. I think that's a really good way to get those out there beyond the email marketing and SMS campaigns as well. Number 8 for me, video marketing. Video. I don't know how many people still don't do video. And I think it's that conscious thing that you're in front of a camera and what are people going to think? At the end of the day, if you're a real estate agent, you want people to see your face and you want people to know you. I do so much video out there that people think I'm this, I don't know, like extrovert, stand-up speaker, whatever. I'm not. I'm quite humble behind the scenes. But I do a lot of videos because I actually enjoy doing the videos. And I think it's a great way for people to build a relationship with you before they meet you, and a better way to build trust, because it's easy to hide behind some words and some text and an image than it is to hide behind a camera, right? So I think for me, if you're not doing some sort of video marketing at the moment, you need to start doing that. And it can be so simple. You don't need any cool tech or anything like that. Grab your phone. Most phones are better than most cameras these days. So you can grab your phone and just start recording yourself at their open home. Hey, just here at the open home, come on down and check it out. I really love this splash back here. It's full granite piece, blah, blah, blah. You keep it short and sweet and post that up. And if you start just encouraging yourself to do it once a week or once a day, just a short reel or something like that, you'll find you'll get in the habit of it, and you'll find it's just like, oh, I've got to do that reel today. What can I talk about? And believe me, there's always something we can share that people will find interesting. And I think that's the most important thing too, which I still don't do too well, to be fair, but I think share some information that people might find interesting. What is the intent of your video, and what value are you offering that they might, see you as an expert in the real estate space? Number nine is client referrals. So having referrals from your current clients. Again, it's a tricky one to navigate, but referral business is probably the best business you can have, because if someone that you've worked with before had a great experience with you, they'll probably appreciate working with you again. But if you ask them to refer you to a friend or someone that they might know selling, they're probably more than happy to do that because they had such a great experience as well. So don't forget your past clients, and you can reach out to your past clients regularly through anniversary calls, birthday calls potentially. You could reach out to your clients just to give them market updates, whatever it might be. But there's no reason why you can't ask them, hey, just by the way, obviously you're not selling right now, but do you know anyone that you might be able to refer me to? And the other thing you can do, which I've done, and I don't know if I agree or not agree with it, but you can actually offer some incentives to your clients or your past clients and say, hey, look, if you do know anyone and you refer them to me directly and they list and sell with me, we're actually giving out a $500 bonus or a $1,000 bonus. I know a lot of agents that do that sort of reward, and I think that's a good way to get more referrals too. You can incorporate some email and SMS campaigns in that with your past clients, because sometimes if you've got 300 past clients, it's hard to call them all. So an email that's kind of personalized to them, or a text that's kind of personalized to them, can also help generate that referral business as well. And number 10, which I touched on before, is partnerships with other businesses. So who in your community could you build a relationship with, partner with, whereby you scratch their back, they scratch yours? And this could be trades in the area, your local plumber, your local sparky, whatever it might be, because a lot of these people are working on homes for people that are actually thinking about selling. And you could offer, again, with the referral network, some sort of incentives there. Like, hey, if you do give me a referral, make sure you let me know who they are so I can give you guys, a $500 gift voucher for the process. And in return, hey, we're going to put you on our top priority list. So anyone that wants a plumber, we're going to give them your number. They're going to give you a call first. So that's how the referral network works. You could think of other businesses too, not just the trades, but services like your local brokers, your solicitors, things like that. Potentially, you could develop relationships there where you just work exclusively with them. And so if you get a buyer or seller that needs a conveyancer, you give it to that business. And if they get, someone that's looking to sell or buy, they send it your way. So that's with brokerages, conveyances, the services that we typically use when transacting in properties. And the other one is, property management companies could be another example. There's a lot of property management companies that just do property management. So you could ring up them and say, hey, look, for all your property management people that are thinking of selling down the track, would we be a first point of call for you to refer us? And likewise, if we get any property management coming in, because we don't do property management ourselves, we'll give them straight to you all the time. I think that's a good way to get more leads as well. So that's my top 10 without going into too much detail. I think they all have value, and I think it's hard to keep them all going. But like I said at the start, whatever ones you choose, make sure you enjoy doing them. Make sure they align with your strengths. And that way you'll probably do them better and you'll probably find better results out of them. And you can probably do more of them. Whatever you choose, let's say you choose 2 to 3 of these strategies to start with and just add on a couple every year. I think consistency is key to all of this. And that would be my first bonus tip, is that you don't do an email campaign once a week, but that only goes out once every 5 weeks, or it goes out Thursday this week and next week it's coming out on a Tuesday because I forgot the week before to do it. You really have to set it in your schedule that, hey, I do an email campaign every Thursday at 5 o'clock. So that means Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I'm setting up that campaign and having it ready to go, whatever it might be. So I think consistency is key. And same with social media. You can't just post something on there and expect everything to happen and all these leads to come in. You just have to be constantly doing it, and people will see that. And same with the letterbox drops, all the things I've talked about. I think consistency is the biggest key there. And the final tip that I think that relates to all of these things as a real estate agent these days is that you need to be different in your approach. For when I started in real estate, I got in and I didn't know what I was doing. I thought, okay, I'll give this a go. Sounds like a good gig. And I looked around me and I looked at other real estate agents. I said, okay, flashy cars, suits, all that jazz. So I sort of tried to fit into this mold of being a real estate agent. And what do most people not like? They don't like real estate agents. And that's just the industry stigma that we have. So what I think is most important about all these things is that you don't become a real estate agent. You do it your way. You be yourself in this process, and you look at ways to be different. So don't look at what the industry is doing around, what they're putting on their flyers. Look at what some of the best companies in the world are doing and what they're putting on their flyers. I think that's a better way to differentiate yourself from a competitor. And then the other thing I think is important is make sure you understand then your unique selling proposition, and you can put that into your marketing material as well, highlighting why you're different from the competition. Because guess what? You see every day, and I'm using the flyer drop again, is the real estate agent flyer in your mailbox that says, I am the best. I just sold this property for $1 million. And then free market appraisal on the back, something like that. Fairly typical sort of flyer. And how many of them do we really see? We see plenty of them out there. So I think it's important to be different. And there's plenty of different ways you can do that. And that's coming up with your unique sales proposition, which I might actually talk about next week in the StartSmart session. So if you're interested in that, join us next week for that session as well. And I'm going to wrap it up there and open it up for a bit of Q&A for anyone that might have some questions. Happy to answer. So I'll put it on mute, and I'll stop the recording there.